Welcome to this week's shop update. It's Saturday. I spent the morning doing a bit of stuff I had to do on the computer and then going through under the house and throughout the shed and just going through all of my paints and chemicals and solvents and everything like that, because I had some old stuff down there. Our local council, the tip, has a chemical drop-in or drop-off service today from 9 till 3:30. It's currently 20 to 3, so I'm on my way up there. And you can drop off household chemicals for free and they will dispose of and recycle of it appropriately, rather than having some Yahoo cowboy chucking it down the drain or just tossing it in their bin where it goes into the landfill. Okay, job done. Drove down, they did a little survey. How'd you find out about this?
Have you used the service before? Where are you coming from? Blah, 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 blah.
Go around the building, open up the back of the van, and this team of guys wearing like overalls and gloves and everything just empty out all the stuff and sort it automatically, putting different paints and chemicals in all the different little bins and stuff that are all lined with plastic and sealed up. And there was a whole stack of trucks set up by the EPA that obviously get loaded up and take the stuff away at the end of the day, all throughout the day, because I did see one leaving. I think it's a really good service to have, and I really hope that more people use it. Still working on this pathway and excavating it down. There was a post there, there was a post here. This one came out really easy. That one was being difficult. Turned out about a foot lower than where I am now. There was a lot of concrete. So finally got it out. Just got to finish excavating this to get it all level, about an inch below the slab for the shed. So when I initially ended up digging this back, this is the point of where the edge of the retaining wall is going to be. So they're in line, but I was just eyeballing along here, and I'd only just made my 190, so I needed a little bit more space behind it. So I've just started cutting in here, and I've cut back the same distance down there, and I'll just join those two lines up and clean all the way down, and that way I've got room to build the wall and have a bit of space behind it to put in drainage and that sort of stuff as well. (5:20), and just before I go packing up, I've got all of this area excavated and leveled from a footpath. It's more than 2 inches below this one, so that I can do a footpath through here. I can do a footing along this side, the concrete block wall, and so it's back to here. I've still got to get my heights right for excavating up there, and the string line you see that goes around is level, so that's going to be the height. So after clicking upload, when I was walking around the outside of the area I've been working, I noticed that it chopped off when I was talking about the stuff I was doing over by the fence. So I'll have to show you that, I guess, next weekend when I get back out and working on this again. Because afterwards I looked at it and went, I've actually got to dig down a little bit further where the block wall's going to be to do some footings, and they need to be a fair bit deeper than just the footpath. So I'll have to calculate all that and show you that when I do that, I guess, next week. Cleaning up and putting the old points back into the distributor is getting me to work. I'm almost there, but after the initial 20-25k of the drive, Max started misfiring and coughing and spluttering and that sort of stuff. He runs smooth on a low rev, but if I start trying to accelerate and going along the freeway especially, he was coughing. I'm going to buy new points. I'll buy a new cap and a new rotor as well this afternoon, and I'll probably put them in at the place that I buy them and see how it goes driving back to the house tonight. And if it still coughs, then I'm going to have to do a bit more troubleshooting. Construction class have just finished pegging out a slab that they got to form up and it'll be poured. This is for the ag plot. 4.8 by 4.8, so I just pegged it out. And the fall was a lot less than we thought it would be. From the highest point to the lowest point was only 13 mil, so just a half an inch. So they don't have to do as much excavating as we actually thought, so that's good. I've just picked up my points. I've got a set of points and a rotor for the car. They didn't have any distributor caps. Just started coughing again, so I've pulled into a car park on the way so that I can just swap in these points. And thankfully, I found my other set of my Pop's feeler gauges, which actually has a 20 thou in it, so that'll be easier and more accurate than placing 3 together and mucking around with them. But you can see the difference between the new rotor and the one that was in there, so that end's burnt off a fair bit. And there's my new set of points. So I'm going to just swap these in, get them set, and get myself on home. That's taken me a little under 10 minutes to just fiddle around and get that in, get the points set, start it up, get my timing close to right. So we'll see how we go getting home. So after changing the points and the rotor on the distributor this afternoon, started driving and it was driving good, and then it just started to cough again and it got worse and worse and worse. Last time it got like that was when the timing belt had actually slipped, it like it skipped a tooth. I have once again pulled the front end off Max to expose the timing belt, and I definitely know it had been skipping a tooth. There was like rubber dust all through there. So I basically took that off, took my plugs out, rotated it around till I got that up to top dead center, and right down the bottom there's a little notch pointing to an arrow, which is top dead center, but it was also that white line. Before, when that was at top dead center for number 1, that was about 10 degrees before. Now I know the timing's meant to be at about 10 degrees before, but not when it's all aligned. The timing gets adjusted so that it fires before it gets to top dead center. So somehow, I mean, the last time this slipped was because the idler pulley just here had gotten jammed. It wasn't jammed this time, but something had happened that let this belt slip. And it's a tooth belt, so it shouldn't really slip. So I'm just going to readjust all this, put it all back together and take it for a run. And hope that it runs alright. Because I needed to collect materials for school. Just finished up class with Year 12. The one who's working with the Jarrah got most of her stuff milled up in terms of thickness. Still got to do another piece here. This is some leftover bits. This one here, I've got one student who's going to be doing kind of like a log, I won't say river table, pond table, island table, something like that. Kind of like what Mike Montgomery did, where he's got different pieces with the epoxy in between it. This is the log he wants to use, so I've got to bring my chainsaw in and chop that up for him. But he got basically the form put together today for that. This student's still been cutting up all her pieces, marking out some more bits that she's got. You can see them just sitting up there on the lathe. Another student she got her timber today, and she's just basically started prepping things up. Had another student, one of the girls has had to change her timber choice because the timber she wanted wasn't available in stock and we'd have to wait a while. And they also said it was brush box. They said in furniture it's a little bit unstable. Well, she's gone for ironbark. And I'll show you how I get them to choose their pieces. So last year I went down to our local hardwood supplier. These are a lot of the timbers that they can supply, and they basically just allow you to take samples. This was the one that the student wanted to use, but it wasn't available. It's used in staircases and stuff, not so good in furniture, and she's instead decided on ironbark. So I'm going to go make that order. So there's all my pieces. Only just got a piece of walnut because they didn't have any sampled last time. So the other day, Max stopped running the other night, and my wife said I'm going to have to just take the Suzuki in. I had to buy some plywood for Year 12. I hooked up the trailer that morning, and went and bought the plywood and took it into work. And then I left the trailer at work, and we just filled it up over the last 2 days with some of the scrap that we had out in the construction space to get rid of. So I've got a massive load of scrap steel in the trailer, including several bins from the workshop with all the scraps from the metal workshop that we've basically been collecting over a year. So that's all in there. I'm heading over to the scrap yard. Last time I went there, steel was 12.5 cents a kilo. So we'll see what we get for the faculty with this lot. There's still a lot more in the construction site area, but I need to break it down to fit as much as we can in the trailer. Like, I've got several filing cabinets that have been flattened out. Just pulled everything apart and threw them in there as well, so we could get enough in there to get our money's worth in one trip, basically. So just finished off at the scrapyard right at the end of the day, so it's really easy to get through. 350 kilos of steel I had in the trailer. That's about 770 something pounds. 125 a tonne, just shy of $44. It's not a big windfall, but considering a lot of it was stuff that was just scrap lying around in the workshop, and a whole stack of metal stuff that was just going to be thrown into the bins at the school, to get that little bit of money back and to show the kids that whole thing about sustainability and, you know, this is being recycled rather than just going into the dump. And that'll pay for some paints and that sort of stuff at Bunnings, or screws or rivets or all that sort of stuff. So it's not a big windfall, but I think it's worth it. Every little bit counts, really. It's Friday, Arvo. Today and yesterday I got a lot of the rest of the scrap steel loaded into the trailer. Yesterday, the day before, that load was 350 kilos. As soon as I started trying to move the trailer to put it back on the car, and then started driving with it too, I just knew this load was a lot heavier. Turns out I had 450 kilos in steel, and again it was just scrap steel, all the leftover scraps out of the workshops, and some old lockers and filing cabinets and that sort of stuff from around the school that were being thrown out. We also had an old dishwasher out of one of the staff rooms that was broken, and when I was pulling that one apart, it was because I looked at the stainless steel, and I heard that stuff about stainless steel at the different prices, and the door of the dishwasher and the bottom pan were the non-magnetic stainless steel. The rest of the stainless was just regular steel. But so for the non-magnetic steel, the good quality stainless steel, that stuff was $1.05 per kilo. Just that door and the bottom pan were 4 kilos, so I got $4.20 for that. But while we were unloading the trailer, I also had the giant urinal troughs from the old boys' toilets. When they got replaced, and they just cut the old trough in half and they threw it into our construction space for scrapping. And I just thought it was regular stainless and that it was going to be magnetic and all that sort of, and I didn't even think to check it. And one of the guys at the scrapyard just looked at it, and he asked another guy for a magnet. They came over and he checked, and it wasn't magnetic. So they threw it back up on the trailer for me. But when I took it over, it had these massive big metal bars along the back of it that were steel, they weren't stainless. But I had no idea that would have been able to be taken off, because they seemed to be welded to the back of the trough to be stiffening on the large flat panels. But because that was a better quality stainless, but it had this other steel on it, they call it irony stainless steel, and it was 20 cents a kilo. So I got $9, because it was 45 kilos, $9 just for that piece. But I'm just thinking, if I had thought to test that and figured out a way of getting those bars off the back, I really don't think I could have got them off, in all honesty, because I'm pretty sure they were spot welded all across the back. Anyway, if I had gotten those off, I reckon that just the stainless part of that trough would have been between 35 and 40 kilos, which would have been between $35 and $40, which would have been good. Would have been better, I'll say that. Of course, today's trip, that and the good quality stainless and the 450 kilos in steel was about $69 in cash back, to go into the faculty. But I tell you what, $100 and something would have been a lot nicer. So with Max being off the road this week, I've had the Suzuki during the week, and even after replacing points, he was still not running that well. One other cause could be the your exhaust system. There could be a blockage. So yesterday I took out the entire exhaust system. This is the front section that goes up to the manifold, and I basically just checked that air was flowing through it well, because in the past my exhaust had basically rusted out the muffler. But it's all running, it's all fine. The only problem I've got now is that the exhaust was only hanging off the manifold by one bolt. So the bolts, I'd had one that had snapped and one had disappeared. So I've been trying to find a random bolt to try and put that together with. So I'll get this back on, start him up again, see how he goes, and see if he's still failing under power. And if he is, back to the troubleshooting drill board. Tried to get a bit more of this done today. You can see I've sort of dug out a bit more of a foundation for the wall. Dug down. It's about 8 inches at the moment, but I've still got to go more. Didn't get as much done on that area as I was hoping, because I basically spent the last 2 days just trying to troubleshoot the van. It's just not running properly, it's failing under power, and I've just been checking over and over and over all sorts of stuff. Check the exhaust system, the ignition system, the points, all of my leads, my carburetor. Everything's running fine, and it idles fine, and revs kind of fine. Although while I was doing some checking and trying to get the revs up, I did that a little bit too soon, and one of my little coolant hoses popped and started leaking. So I've sealed that up, so I'm going to have to replace that hose as well, which I think I've got some in the van, but as you can see outside, it's dark, and this is when I was trying to do that in the very end. I took it for one last test run, and it barely made it up the hill. I know the timing is all perfect, but it's just failing under load. My next door neighbour came over and he saw me kneeling at the passenger door of the van just looking at the motor. He said, "I thought you were praying." And it probably needs a prayer right now. And I've been contacting a couple of mates of mine that are very good with cars. One's actually a mechanic, roadside mechanics down in Victoria, and trying to get their brains trust working on it. Nothing's happening. It's an old van, and it's really beginning to frustrate me, because I'm spending more time trying to work on that than working on everything else that I'm trying to get done around here, and it's really beginning to get stressful. There's so much I need to do, and that van is now taking up my time. I think I've done these things for the last 2 weeks, so I better get this one uploaded. Have a good one, everybody. Have a great one.